Hello, I am Stefan from mywoodcutters.com and welcome today to our next episode of Clean Armor How To. In this episode we want to talk about the Wood 700 as well as the 705 clear coat finishes. The 700s are the interior, the 705s are the exterior. I'll get back to that in just a minute because first I want to talk about something else, and that is the previous video. That was the 710 sealer. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend you watch it first, because in that video we laid down this sealer, which is the foundation for our clear coat finishes. Yes, so anyways, in my previous video, in the middle or so, I talked about sanding, and I ended up in a little bit of a word kerfuffle, word salad, and so on, got lost in words, and realized in the end I forgot to mention two fairly important things. Now, as we know, normal finishes on the market, such as lacquers, whether water-based or lacquer filler-based, they only have like 25% to 30% solids, which means when the product dries, all you're left with is 25 to 30% solids. So you have a piece of wood here that I show here on the screen that has quite a dimple in there, any hole. So when you're finishing it now, you see this brown layer. This represents our lacquer that is floating there on top. It kind of self-levels while it's still wet. But when it dries, all you're left with again are 25 to 30% solids. And you see that now here. So basically that green layer represents the lacquer that you're left with after you finish it. So you can repeat this step again and again and again, and yet you will never get rid of that hole. And for that reason, we all know that if you want to get a really flat surface and you want to eliminate that hole, you have no other choice but to sand it down to the surface of the bottom of this hole. Otherwise, you're not going to get it flat. And that is exactly the difference here with Clean Armor, because here you don't have to. Clean Armor is 100% solids, so you will fill that hole completely, as shown here with the blue layer. This is the Clean Armor finish, and it stays the same whether it's wet or cured. The main difference, however, is with the first couple of coats, a lot of the product is soaking into the wood, and that will still leave some holes behind. But once everything is sealed, then you can lay your final coat on it and it will stay level. So you get a fairly smooth surface in the end. So that was the main thing I wanted to mention here. Okay, so back to today's episode. Wood 700, so 700 and 705, sorry. I want to show you a little bit closer. So we have here 3 different ones, and the only difference here is the sheen level. So we have matte, we have satin, and we have gloss. And by the way, I do not show the 705 line here because they are fairly the same. The main difference is the 700 is for interior projects, the 705 for exterior projects. Now, what is really the difference in between those? Because even the 700 interior offers us an extreme protection from water and chemicals and everything. So if it's already completely protected by from water, then what could be the difference with the exterior product? And the answer is fairly simple. It offers an extra layer of UV light protection, and that is to protect the wood from changing color in time. That happens, when it's out in the elements, based on the light. Now that brings also another little bit of advantage, if you wish, or if you like, because many woods, such as cherry, fir, purple heart, and so on, easily and fast change color when exposed to light, and so even inside. So if you would like to prevent that, well, however, you cannot really prevent it, but you can definitely slow it down, then you simply use the 705 exterior products. So yeah, so the 700 also has a basic UV layer protection. I mean, interior, you know, nothing is really outside in the light anyways. So the only light that you get inside is through the windows, and most windows already have a UV protection built in. So with Clean Armor finishes, you are already slowing down quite a bit the color changing due to light. Okay, so what are we going to do today? I want to apply all three of these finishes in matte, in satin, and in gloss. And we have only one board that we will finish on both sides. So I have to split up, and I decided I will do the first side in the satin, and then on the other side do half and half in both extremes, in matte and in gloss. And talking of which, if you do not like the sheen levels, let's say the matte is too flat for you and the gloss is too shiny, then simply only order the gloss and the matte, and you can mix them in any ratio to get the sheen level that you like. So satin is somewhere right in between, but if you wanted a little bit more on the flat side, then just add a little bit more matte in it, and that's all you would have to do. So on the first side here, we're going to do the hand application. I forgot to bring out my gloves, bear with me. But before we do that, as mentioned, so in between the first two coats of the sealer, we did not sand, but now we do. And again, the point is, do not sand too far down. So give it only a very brief, quick sanding to remove any highs that you may feel, such as dust particles that have embedded into finish, or wood fibers that are standing up. But do not sand down to the low points. So very gentle, quickly go easy over it until it's smooth. And that is all there is to it. Very quick and easy. I put on our gloves. I do not even know why I put here two of the wipe-on applicators, because we only need one. But better than not having enough. Okay, so same thing again, always important. Oh, and by the way, let me bring you up a little bit closer so you can see what the hell I'm doing here. So shake the bottle, open it, and pour something on. Take our applicator and wipe it on. And just as I expressed already in the other video with the 710 sealer, I go here fairly crazy in all kinds of directions with the grain, cross the grain, diagonally, doesn't matter. For starters, all I want to do is spread the finish fairly evenly all over the board. And once that has been achieved, I go with very, very light strokes with the grain to even it out. And yeah, here again, I have glued here together a piece of sapelli, which is some kind of mahogany, and a piece of white oak. And the purpose simply is to show you the difference, because some finishes look quite a bit different depending on the wood that is laid onto. So you can see it on light wood and dark wood. Also, the grain on the sapelli is a little bit more dense. Not quite as dense as, for example, maple. Maple may have been a better choice for that case, but oak again has a fairly rough or coarse grain. And so yeah, so you can see what the difference is. So now we have to be a little bit patient and wait for the product to self-level. Now, talking of which, this is also somewhat depending on room temperature where you're working. And I'm currently here, I would say in the low 70s, where that should work fairly well. Obviously, the warmer the better in that respect. but I wouldn't want to go too high in temperature for as long as you also have to finish edges. Let's say you spray them on or whatever, because you don't want to get runners in the end. So, however, if you get a little bit too cold and it doesn't really want to self-level, then you can thin the material down by up to 10%. And what you simply use is isopropyl alcohol. But when you get alcohol in your local drugstore, I would recommend to get it there. You have to pay attention. You get at least 91%. I personally prefer the 91% only for cleaning tools and so on, like my spray gun. And when it comes to thinning down, I would certainly prefer the 99%, because you have to consider that whatever is not alcohol, so out of the 91% and the remaining 9%, most of it is water, and water in this finish doesn't mix very well. So that's why I would only thin it down with 99% alcohol. Yeah, so I will have to repeat this. I'm not overly pleased yet. Maybe it is a little bit too cool in here. But remember, by the way, unlike any hard wax oils and so on, we do not use, clean gloves to wipe the finish off again, and are only left with what has soaked into the wood. So I am going extremely gentle here. I barely picked anything up, and yeah. I think that looks already a little bit better. Obviously, the more gentle you go, the better it is anyways for evening it out. And I will bring, in the meantime, my bottle to safety. I mean, the cap is on, but I still like to get it out of harm's way when I turn the lights on. Yeah, that starts looking good. Let me quickly show you a little bit more close up. It still looks very wet, because that's what it is. Clean Armor products do not dry, will stay wet pretty much forever. Well, I cannot say forever, I guess, if it's exposed like this. But yeah, there is nothing in there that evaporates. So let me go ahead and turn the lights on, and we should be able to see a change in physical appearance as it cures, because only the gloss will never change the appearance, because it looks wet, whether it is still wet or if it's dry, it just looks wet. Yeah, I can already see now how the satin gloss kicks in, so it takes a little bit away from the sheen, that wet surface. I can already go ahead and remove my gloves because I don't need them anymore. And remember, you can simply put these into a Ziploc bag, label it what you used it on, or not what you used it on, but what product you used it with. In this case, the 700 satin, and store it in a dark place, preferably before you turn the lights on. And then you can pick it up again at any time later, even in 6 months or so, and finish the next project, and you don't need a new wipe-on pad or a brush for that matter, or whatever you are using. Okay, this is cured now. I can clearly see that. Very smooth and already scratch resistant. Let me pick you up and show you what the satin finish looks like. Okay, I'll bring you back here because now we're getting ready to spray on the other side. I want to get rid of these so I don't overspray them. And here again, by the way, I showed on the other side when it came to sanding, I used my machine, but you might as well, as I said, only very light sanding. You can also use, hand applicator and simply go over it like that. Now when you're spraying it, lays down the material completely different. We still have here a few more holes where the finish obviously soaked a little bit more into the wood, because when spraying you're not applying it quite as thick as by hand. So that should do it. I'm going to spray it off, or blow it off I mean. And I want to show you quickly what the surface looks like now. A little bit more close up. So that's why I said, quite some holes. So you should see, especially on the Sapele, you can see it fairly well. I really only sanded the high points, right? But everything that is still shiny are the low points. And our next coat of spraying this material on should fill that nicely. So now, as I said, we want to spray this half in matte, half in gloss. I guess I'll start with the gloss on the right side. I'll just do some guesswork. So this is just a hair above the surface, so it will not be a sharp separation here, because the materials will bleed into each other, I guess. But yeah, I forgot to turn on my air purifier. Okay, I have to apologize because I needed to interrupt the video here. My spray gun was not set up properly and I had to do some adjustments. Okay, so now we're going to spray the gloss. Okay. And I quickly have to change my cup on the spray gun so we can use the matte on the other side. Or I simply cut that part out of the video. Okay, I had to cut here the video quickly again, just because to prepare my spray gun for the matte, which we want to do on the other side. Okay, there we go. I'm going to spray the leftover out of the gloss that I still have in the gun. The oak definitely has some deep grain, but that is normal for oak, I would think. So, and the biggest problem that I have, that this is not a professional spray booth. So for me, I have dust issues in my shop. I can see a few spots here on the gloss side. If I really wanted glossy, then I would certainly quickly polish it afterwards, which is actually not a big deal. I'll show that in a different video later on. So for now, let's quickly see what we have. The matte lays down quite a bit different than the gloss. So, but again, this is just the wood grain, which is so coarse here. On the Sapele side, it's much better. But again, let's see what it looks like while we're curing it. I'll put the camera up here, and hopefully you can pick up as the matte side is curing. So the matte now is here, gloss is here, and we should see a difference here very soon. The lights are on. Yeah, I see already how the mat comes up. So it changes the appearance from, yeah, liquid to dry. Yeah, I definitely have a few dust pimples in here. So that is more or less to be expected with the glass. Well, actually, in that fact, with all the sheen levels, the major difference is just that the glass is so unforgiving and shows every single imperfection. Yeah, so it is cured. It feels dry to the touch, but I still felt a little bit of warmth here. And when it's completely cured, it shouldn't feel warm. Let's turn that off. Turn that off. Let's get that off because the air in here is again completely breathable. And yeah, so much for that. So again, we have the gloss and the matte finish on this side, and then the satin on that side, which was applied by hand. And yeah, there you have it. Okay, hope you learned something and you enjoyed that video somewhat. And I hope that I'll see you again in one of the next episodes in Clean Armor How To. Have a good one.